Clop, 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 clop.
Oh yeah, what did you think about Clop?
Oh wow, Chris!
I thought you wanted my insightful analysis of Clop. It's hard to play.
That's true.
It's a minute to play, a lifetime to master.
Clop. Oh no one likes it as much as Clop.
Clop is like you just mash the keys and your horse goes forward.
Oh, he doesn't go.
What kind of video game is that? You press a button and a thing happens? This is bullshit. Clop. Real game.
I've heard that Clop is game.
Clop is game.
I've heard what
Clop is game. Clop not game. Sorry, what? You heard I what?
Quap is game, Clop not game, game. No, you went on some podcast, and as a joke, I wrote in saying, what is game? And you're like, well, actually, I've been playing Quap. And then you went on like a 20-minute jag about how Quap actually is indicative of everything that you, at the time at least, like it held true for what a video game is. You're like, Quap. And then at the end, you were just like, well, Quap is game. And it was like, whoa! That was you filling up like 6 blackboards and writing QED at the bottom, except you actually wrote QWOP and then walked away. I wish I could remember what show that even was. It was impressive to me. That's all.
Yeah.
People should look that up. You should look it up.
In a book.
It's in there. Take a look. It's in a book.
It's August 15th, 2012, and
this is Idle Thumb 70, and I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Sean Vanneman.
Games, video 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 games.
Hey, we are here for the 70th plus time, and
It's our 70th anniversary.
It's the 70th anniversary episode. We've been doing this 70 years. We're all really fucking old.
Anniversary of nothing.
Nothing. This one time, 70 audio files were deployed, plus some additional audio files. Yeah. Let's celebrate by talking about...
We're actually not too far away from the 4-year anniversary of the podcast.
But that doesn't really count either, because it's actually the 2nd-year anniversary, really, if you just add up all the months.
No, it'd be the 3rd. There's only 1 year that we
That's
were fully
true.
gone.
October 2013. Idle Thumb's anniversary year. Cool.
So, guys, now that we got that out of the way...
We wanted to get it out of the way because
We've been waiting for 7 for so long.
Yeah. If people listen back, they'll hear, just in the right channel, faintly, every episode we count... we started at 70 in the first one, and then you heard 69, 68, 67, so we've been waiting for this. This is the culmination of the Idle Thumb's secret right channel whisper arg.
Good.
Yeah, we released all the podcasts in mono, so you didn't get the...
Yeah, that was our mistake. What are we talking about? Games.
Babel. What was that game called? Babel.
Just go on. You'll get it.
Babel. I don't know what it's called.
Oh, no, you'll get it.
Did you want to be shown some blueprints?
Show me the Babel.
Show me that.
The game is Babel.
What was it called, actually?
Babel Rising.
Babel.
It was called. See, you were close, but then think, okay, it's called Babel, but it's a video game. Oh, Babel Rising.
Babel Origins. Babel Reckoning.
I think you're just playing the $64,000 pyramid or whatever. Pointing. Why did you buy that game?
We saw
it. It just came. We actually fell for a Steam pop-up. I think that just went boop, Babel Rising, and we went, okay.
We just thought it was hilarious that there's a game called Babel Rising, and it's about people building the Tower of Babel.
It's actually the only real appropriate use of rising in video games ever thus far. Like the tower is in fact rising from the earth.
I don't know if we watched the trailer, but one can only hope that it says a Babel will rise.
Oh man, the trailer is ridiculous.
A Babel will rise?
Yes.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
That's very
How
good.
was Babel formed?
With a bunch of
pretty
slaves.
self-evident, I think.
These sad sacks that you've pounded to the dirt.
So yeah, the concept of this game is that you are
God.
God.
Presumably, it's the Tower of Babel being built, and you are attempting to smite those who are building it because it's heretical.
Right.
Yeah.
So you are God of the Old Testament, I guess?
Apparently, yeah.
So it's a God game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Except that it's a casual God game.
It is. So you just, for the readers at home.
Just slaves sort of wander up to a start gate and start.
Other slaves.
They might be doing this
They
willingly.
don't seem like they're super into carrying rocks.
They've got very arched backs with rocks.
Yeah, but that's how you had to build
That's
shit.
true.
With slaves.
Okay, hold on. Let's back this up one step. Human beings walk into frame and then start walking up the already built beginning of the Tower of Babel. If you let them get too far, they'll place the next segment of the tower. So they sort of slowly spiral up, and we never lost because we were so good at Babel Rising.
We're really good.
But presumably, if they get to the top and the tower is complete, you lose.
God loses.
So it's
What does God do? I was like, man.
it's
Oh, they did it.
God.
They were right.
That really burns
Now
me.
they win.
they did make a thing. But your powers are just kind
We
of
should have let it happen.
Yeah. And if you just hear your own voice somehow, just go, God. That's the loose condition.
Oh man, that would have been a really funny voiceover for that game if there were no spoken monologue from God, but it's just a little like
Yes.
ooh,
That's okay.
yeah. So I guess
me, damn it. No, that would be
you have powers based on the 4 elements that have tower defense style recharge time. So you can throw rocks at guys, or make rocks come up out of the earth, or throw fireballs at them, or make fire come out of the earth, or rain on them,
or freeze.
or freeze them
come out of the earth.
And then you get some supercharged powers, like you can make a bunch of fireballs fall, or you can make the Indiana Jones boulder roll all the way down the Tower of Babel. Which
Or the best one.
we thought the ball rolling down was the most satisfying one, but if you the ultimate power for water just floods the entire level and kills everyone,
it's
which is
crazy.
hilarious.
Yeah, it's
so,
amazing.
And then it's really macabre.
It's
Not all of them could swim.
It
Yeah.
must not be good swimmers. Like what?
I just drowned like 40 people.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Although it is a case of a game where it is actually not. It's not really tonally
No, it was fine.
inconsistent because it's
Right.
like
You were just being-
just straight up Old Testament God just wrecking these people
Yeah.
who disobey your orders.
And some of their little bodies, they have little soul outlines that do float to heaven, which I think is indicative of the type of God you are. You know, like, I'll
I
murder
killed
you
you,
for
but
being a
you're-
heretic, but come on over. I can't stay
so.
mad at you.
what were the weird domination text and stuff that came up? What were the phrases?
Calamity?
Yeah, calamity. But there was
Punishment?
yeah. It would,
And then I feel like you had one show up, but I think calamity and punishment were the two that we
yeah, it gets
those are the
excited.
main
It has a combo meter. I don't know if we could ever actually recommend this game, but it was
So pretty fun.
it was
pretty
actually an
entertaining,
iOS game?
I think it was originally for mobile stuff, and then they put it out on PC and Mac as well.
That's really...
It's a Ubisoft game also.
It's
which is
Ubisoft.
weird.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason we played it. I think not because we
we were
thought
like,
it would just
Babel
be better
Rising
because
from
it was
Ubi.
from a major publisher, but we just thought it was weird
Yeah.
that a game like this was published by a major publisher. So, kind of just out of bizarre interest, we checked it out.
They like bizarre God games where
yeah, apparently
slaves
like From
die.
Dust. They
Yeah,
also
I loved
published.
From Dust.
Yeah, that game was really cool.
Yeah, that game was awesome.
That was Eric Chahi. That's a better game than this. But
Yeah, it just
this was still a
feels-
fun, goofy thing. I thought.
It's so funny though. Like, there's clearly a business model that says this is doable. Like, take your iOS game or your mobile game that you sell for like between 99 cents and $2.99, and then bring it to PC and Mac.
It's happening more and more. It seems.
It's-
like.
Yeah, because I
common,
actually
yeah.
bought last night. I bought Hero Academy for Steam because it was a game that it's been on the iOS charts for a while, and it appealed to me because I had played like 5 minutes of the iOS game, and it was because it was free, and you would buy extra guys and extra collections of.
Right, it was super free to play model.
Yeah, it was so freemium that I just. I'm just like, can I just
I
give
thought
you
you-
money up front
I
and
thought you
just
were
let all
going
this
to say
stuff go?
it was so freemium that I couldn't resist.
I couldn't resist.
Anyway,
But I just really don't like if I'm playing the game. Like
it
I've
being
made
an
my
actual
purchases.
per cost item on Steam made it more appealing to you, though. Or
I
like
didn't quite
the game
really-
itself had a financial barrier to entry. Like you could own something.
Right, that I could actually spend $5, get a game that would be just a game, and then if there was DLC stuff, like it was kind of a way.
Right.
But that's not really the case. It just still feels like this iOS game that now I'm playing on Steam, and it's asynchronous. So like I feel like I'm just sort of sitting at my computer, waiting for somebody to just turn to play. So if you have never played Hero Academy, basically it's a strategy game, a casual strategy game where you kind of move guys on a 8 by I think like 12 board, and they have it's very similar to there's this great DS game that was like Armored something. Never mind. It's just a game where you move guys on a grid, and then they have powers that they can perform within a certain radius, and you have X amount of moves per turn.
Right.
Some guys cost more moves.
Like a strategy RPG.
Yeah, but it's really, really casual, and you can just tell just from its rendering, it's cartoony and very approachable.
Like a tactical little thing.
Yeah, in the asynchronous...
like Advance Wars or something like that style?
Advance Wars, that was what I was looking for, yeah.
Okay.
It's very similar to that, but less intense than Advance Wars. I really liked Advance Wars, too, on the DS. I thought that game was fantastic. And it's because it's asynchronous, and there's like challenge modes where it's like, kill these guys in 4 turns, do this in 2 turns. That stuff is entertaining, so it's sort of like, I have to crack this puzzle. There's a way to do this. Mm-hmm. But when you're playing asynchronously, I just kind of keep creating games and waiting for a stranger to play their turn. And
that stuff burns me out to the max.
Oh, it's so unappealing. So I was really bummed out because I spent $5 on this game. It continues to want to sell me packs of everything to the point where, like, I say, okay, start my game. And it's like, which army do you want? And I've got, like, the knights that come with it. There's some elves that came with it. And then the TF2 guys come with it. And I said, rent. And then I'm like, oh, well, what about this one? And it's grayed out. And I click on it. And it goes, oh, purchase. And blinks me to the Steam store. Just when I'm clicking on it to explore it,
what it even is.
Yeah. Like, oh, God. So I was constantly, like, shift-tabbing away from the Steam store. So it was just this iOS paradigm straight to their game.
Right.
Even though I gave them $5 for it, which is way more than they're going to get from me on iOS.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
So you basically paid $5 for the TF2 pack.
I guess.
That's that's effectively how it's rationalized to them, probably.
Right. Yeah, and I think if next time I log into TF2, there will be a hat waiting for me.
Sweet.
So stoked on that. I'll probably do that before I go home tonight. Yeah. I'm really hoping it's...
Did we ever talk about... We may have already talked about this, so just tell me if we did.
Hold on. Are you changing subjects? I want to fish.
Oh, it was prompted by this, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh. Well, now I don't remember. The point is, I was really bummed out about games at that moment, having bought that thing on Steam and paid $5.
Yeah.
But then a reader just happened to send me a Steam message and change the course of my night with a gaming experience that we'll talk about in a minute.
Was it Dota 2?
No.
Interesting. Intriguing.
Yeah. Go ahead, though.
I was just going to...
Stay tuned. Tune into Serious Cheese. Sorry.
Did we ever talk about, like... Words with Friends and Draw Something on Idle Thumbs?
I don't think that we ever actually have.
I think Jake's the only one who's still deep into that Words with Friends.
I'm not. I play against a couple of people still, but I used to be really deep in Words with Friends. But it was nothing compared to like you two, Chris and Sean, were just like that was your life.
Yeah,
for a
we had
while.
like 6 months.
Was that were you here though, or was that when you were in Boston?
No, you were in Boston.
I think it spanned both.
Yeah, but you and I, it was. You ended up, I think, beating me probably 2 games to 1. If we go back and look at we played 80 games, maybe?
At least.
100?
Yeah, we played there were weeks where we would play like 1 a day.
Yeah. There were days where we would play multiple
multiple
games a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't really figure out why I walked away from that game.
I can figure it out.
But I did get incredibly burned out.
Yeah. It was Words with Friends was the first one, and it got to the point where I would realize I could turn on my phone, or I would pick up my phone and unlock it, and my notifications would be there, and it's like whoever has, like, Sean has played his turn, like, this guy's played his turn, this guy's played his turn, this person has played his turn. And I would go in and I would have like 13 games, and I would do them all, and by the time I'm done, there's like at least one of them is complete. I would go do something for a couple hours, I'd look at my phone again. 10 more Words with Friends games. And I got to the point where they was just so overwhelming that I just had to uninstall the program entirely. I mean, I'm sure I could have just ramped it down, I guess, but I just was so disgusted by the thought of like ever putting another Word with a Friend in there. Like, it just got horrible.
That is just true burnout.
Yeah.
Where something burnout. Like with draw.
Well, I had the same exact experience with Draw.
My experience with Draw Something was finally just like, this is it for this game. This is it. And then it was right around the time that like Doritos started showing up. And I just
I was done before that.
No, this is not for me. Yeah. This is just, no.
I still play a little bit of Words with Friends, but for me, it was one followed the other. Like I was deep into Words with Friends, and then I got deep into Draw Something for a minute, but then I hit my wall in Draw Something, and I think it was about, which is I think
is this when we were sitting at the Pete's coffee shop in Millbrae?
Oh, that was actually what did it.
Yeah, I remember that. I was there for the day he was. I saw him crack.
I'd been playing a game, and it was going forever. Like we were on a huge streak because Draw Something is just the objective is pass a volley back and forth. We might have talked about this on a progress cast actually, but I was on turn 98, or no, I was on turn 99, and I was like, check this shit out. And I held my phone over to you, and then the pencil touched the top of it, and it just turned over to 99 again. And we were both like, what the fuck? This game isn't even, what?
Because the game has literally no win condition. The game doesn't offer you anything for running a great streak.
But it doesn't support being good enough at it that you've played through 100 turns.
Right. And so I just assumed because it didn't offer you anything, the the win condition of that game, the joy of that game was one day opening your phone and just having like turn 940. Like just having this obscene number.
Yeah. Yeah. But for me, getting tired of Draw Something is also what made me like, I basically just went in and declined all active Words with Friends games, declined all of my Draw Something games, and based on Draw Something's performance and Zynga's current state of affairs, that may have actually happened to a lot of people. Because they paid $200 million for Draw Something, and like 2 weeks later, everyone was just like, whoa, asynchronous, like it just died.
I remember it was a few days. I stopped playing it flatly, like 2 days or 1 day before Zynga bought them. It was not. It was not even related to that. It was just total coincidence.
I remember a lot of people I knew had dropped Draw Something, and then it was like $200 million.
I remember it was crazy. The day they bought it, I feel like was like that game's best performing day ever. And then the day after they bought them, it was just daily users declining ever since. Which is crazy because obviously it wasn't most people going, oh, Zynga, I'm done with this. Like that obviously wasn't the case.
No,
it was just a case of them buying it.
OMG Pop just like surfed that wave out of there. Well, they surfed that wave out of there into a 3-year obligated Zynga employment contract probably. But I feel like everybody has X amount of asynchronous gameplay hours inside their body, and we all just burn, like as a society, people are just rapidly burning through them. It's like some people swear by asynchronous though. Like Soren Johnson is super into it.
To what end though? Like I don't really haven't heard Soren.
He just thinks it's a really good model for multiplayer games.
Yeah. I mean, it's not I don't think there's anything inherent about asynchronous gameplay that makes it bad, but I think the casual game paradigm being built on top of asynchronous has just completely burned me out. I think if you open my Steam account today, it probably says 27 minutes of Hero Academy. And I just went, oh my God, I spent $5 on this. Like in that it was so funny in that moment, like $5 felt like so much money to me that was gone.
$10 an hour.
You know, it is just even a little bit more than that. But
a couple of years ago, I was like, when I first moved into the city, I was playing Adam, our housemate, in Words with Friends a lot, and it got to the point that we would just sit at the kitchen table for 2 hours, just basically like eyeing each other over our phones, like the move we made, and then just like boop, stare down, waiting for the sync to show up.
You guys were effectively just playing Scrabble at that moment.
Yeah, but it got like, and then we would just break away and keep playing during the day and then come back and play at night. Like whatever. It was just it was fun. It was just really like heads up Scrabble matches. But
that was that was a fun
gross
time
idea to me.
That was a fun time because like you would hear somebody on the other side of the house. Mainly Adam.
You'd hear
just go you'd just hear him just go way down the hallway. You're like, what are we talking here? It's like 84. I'm like, what? Yeah, but burned out completely. Yeah. So I was really, I mean, like I said, I was sitting at my computer. I was really sort of bummed. Like I haven't bought a game on Steam since the Steam sale, really, and I haven't bought a new game on Steam in a while. And this is the one that I sort of went, you know what? Like, I can. It felt like
either video games are awesome or shitty, and the next game I buy is going to determine it forever. Here we go. Click.
Shit. Why did I buy a Hero Academy casual game? And it's, I mean, again, like if you like. I don't have any way to really complain about the game. It's slick. It's well polished. Like if you like asynchronous casual strategy games, check it out.
If you like dumb bullshit, then by all means.
That's what I'm saying exactly. You really paraphrased me quite well there, Chris. That was really nice. I like that. But no, so I'm sitting there and I get this message from a reader It says, "Oh, hey, I heard you talking about space on the last podcast." Like, oh yeah, that was us.
So it was voice chat, and that's what he sounded like.
Yeah. Oh hey, and
hey, what's up?
I don't know. I just assume everybody's always kind of like, if you send somebody an IM who you don't know and like 10:30 at night, I just imagine that's the tone. Like,
You're
hey,
discouraging
and,
anybody from
No, after this, you should totally do it. But you have a high bar to cross. Have you played Space Engine?
Space Engine? No, I've never heard of Space Engine.
Oh man!
Oh my gosh, we're gonna play it tonight before. Oh, it's already late, but oh my gosh! So
Space Engine.
This Russian guy has this. I don't know if it's open source, but it's this free universe simulator where he's taken the
As in the universe.
as
Let's
in
just be
our
clear here.
universe, as in the actual the universe that we exist in, where he's taken the the astronomic data from. Oh, there was I can't remember the name of it, but in the late 90s, there was a program that's kind of V1 for mapping all the stars, and they, as far as we can see at the time, and all of the planet data that we know about, and built a procedurally generated space where you can go to any single star or any single planet.
So it's procedurally generated, but it's based on...
No, sorry. Everything that's not been mapped is procedurally generated, but everything else is LOD down to the fact that you can go all the way up to the surface of the sun and all the way out to just the edges of knowledge.
Wait, so sorry, so I understand. So everything that we have mapped is
Being accurately represented.
And then everything beyond that
is procedurally generated.
That's crazy.
It is amazing. It is. So this is what you do. You download the game, you install the patch. It's like... The quickest way to do it, by the way, is to there's a link to the torrent. Do that; it's faster than downloading it from Mir. And there's also a link to the patch, which is like 30 megs to download that. And get it set up. Takes 2 seconds. Then also create a Pandora station for like Italian like opera. Like I think Maria Callas was the person I picked. And just be in it. Just lick it up. Just get in there. And
It's basically a majesty renderer.
It is a majesty renderer.
You get close to a star and it starts sort of like flaring out and looking crazy, and then when it goes off camera, the flare disappears, and then you spin back around and just it's ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Things occlude other things and do
right.
And then you just fly at like 400 billion times the speed of light, just whizzing through space, and then stop in the middle of another galaxy cluster.
You can fly something like. Let's see. I was flying at like 23 parsecs a second, which is like 500 light years a second. But you could also fly 5 meters a second, and you can just have that entire range of speed at your disposal on the mouse wheel. So you're just like you're flying through space, and I'm like, I did this thing where I was like,
you just saw that little spiral galaxy that was just like tiny for like 3 minutes of travel at like 1,000 times the speed of light.
Yeah, and then it's like
and then you're just inside of a spiral galaxy.
Or you're out the other side
or
of
you
it.
just, and you're just, whoa! Oh, hold on, back up.
I gotta turn.
Yeah.
And there's 3 different fly modes. There's sort of like WASDA first person mode, where you just sort of like look and move.
First person space.
And then there's a rocket mode, so where, imagine you're in a spaceship, so where like,
Wait, it actually renders the spaceship?
No. It
No, Chris, he said imagine you're in a spaceship.
Yeah.
Wow.
You said, wait, so you're in a spaceship?
But it's sort of, you can move, you can imagine a spaceship having thrusters that kind of like drift you left and drift you right.
That.
Like, and then there's also like airplane mode where you're always kind of moving towards where you're looking.
There's airplane mode where 3G is disabled.
Yes. It's like,
good one, Jake.
God.
I'll be killing myself now.
What sucks is you've been sort of like, oh, it's like this. Oh, there's an airplane. Oh, I can do that too. And you're just being like King Smarm right now. But you're going to go home and install this game and just call me openly weeping.
Oh no, it sounds genuinely awesome. I don't
like that's what the reader said.
Game.
I'm so sorry, reader. I can't remember your name, or even your Steam name. And
I wasn't kidding about the spaceship. I thought you meant you were as a spaceship. That wasn't Smarm.
Oh, okay. You had a look.
When you said imagine, I thought you meant like imagine. Like
right.
That's what
Presently,
the game is
I need you to imagine this thing that's in the game. No. You have an it's the camera behaves a certain
You
way.
have an imaginary spaceship. Just it doesn't draw, but it's there.
Well, it's like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
That's invisible.
Yeah.
The spaceship is not imaginary in Wonder Woman. That's just an invisible spaceship.
Sorry, Sean.
It's important to articulate
Wonder
the
Woman's
difference.
plane is in fact powered by her belief in the existence of that plane.
It's like the food from Hook.
Yes.
Oh, no.
What are we talking about? Space. Anyway, it's cool.
The reader actually said, like, this game made me cry, and I was like, I reserved all, like, just 1,000 jokes.
And then
At least you didn't say that in reader voice.
you're like, asterisk, I roll, asterisk is the reply, but then you were sitting there actually
asterisk,
saying,
really? Asterisk, countdown to tears, asterisk, asterisk.
you were basically flying through space saying, should have sent a poet.
Yeah. Like, I just had blaring opera music coming out of my computer, and I'm like, Jake, come in here and look at this. And you're like,
But just don't look at me though. Just
don't look at me. Just look at space. He's like, I can't. It sounds too majestic.
Yeah, there was
really
some majesty coming out of there.
And it's funny. The thing about it that's so great is it reminds me of a thing I like a lot about a lot of open world games that is sort of a meta game I've always played for myself in games that are really big, which is I just want to see if I can get to that place. I'm just pick a point on the way. That's how I played all of Skyrim. Open the map. That looks cool. I'm going to go over there. And I just drop a thing. And I'm like, the journey will be in the getting there. And that's exactly how I play this game. It's not even a game. It's a simulator. There's no mechanics other than flying around. Right. There's nothing to achieve. Mm-hmm. But it was amazing. Like I found myself Googling like closest Earth-like planet. Like if you look at my Google history for last night, it's just it looks like I'm going insane. Yeah. Closest Earth-like planet. And so I find like these are the three that people think could be the most like Earth. I'm like going to those. And there's a whole index of everything that's mapped in the game, so you can bring up a list and search by, Sagittarius 9 or whatever, and just go right there and check it out. But also, the recent patch put in like known surface detail for continents, so you can go like all the way down to like
on other planets.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's bananas. It's absolutely bananas. Yeah. The LOD going into planet surfaces can get a little funky if they just sort of let it load. And you'll see it. It's got a little like load bar at the bottom that's going really fast.
This whole thing is actually really reminiscent of Will Wright's original demo for Spore.
Oh, yeah.
Like, except Spore obviously was totally procedurally generated. But I remember when I first saw the video of that GDC panel and he was in the planet and then just went and scrolled out to the galaxy and everyone just like shat themselves 300,000 times. This is like that, except it has the... Like, the fact that Spore was procedurally generated was super cool, but in this, when you zoom out and see a galaxy, and then you're just like, well, that's as close as we can represent what it actually is in the reality in which we live right now. Like, there is something really awesome about that. No,
totally. But, I was standing there, and the only time I showed Jake the game, I'd been playing for a while, and Jake came home, was like, Jake, come in here, I gotta check this out, dude. And I'm flying through space, just looking at stuff, and I stop, and there's just a star field in front of me. It just looks like I'm looking at the night sky. Mm-hmm. Like, point to a star. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, just point to any star you see on the screen. He's like, boop, that one. One out of, there's probably 1,500 stars on the screen. And I just point at it and just go, we're going there. And I get the speed dialed in. I'm like, oh, getting too close. And we get there, and there's just a whole solar system around that star. That's just made. It's fucking incredible. Like... There's this great quote from an astronaut that's, I'm going to butcher it. I think it's on my Facebook page or something like that.
Space is rad. Buzz Aldrin.
I walked on your face. That is just, he says something about when you see the Earth from way out there on the moon, you want to go and grab like the smarmiest, shittiest politician, grab him by the scruff of the neck, pull him out to the moon and say, look at that, you son of a bitch. Now go back and do your job, essentially.
Yeah.
And the game just is that in spades. You just sit there, like, I just sat between the Earth and the moon for probably, like, 3 minutes last night, like, going a little closer and a little further back, and be like, Jesus, weird, kind of getting semi-nauseous and semi-emotional.
I saw this amazing letter today that was written by an assistant director of NASA in, like the 80s maybe, and he was responding to a letter written to him by a nun from like Zambia, I believe, and she was saying why are you spending billions of dollars on the space program when there are children starving in the world and this money could be used for so many better purposes. And he wrote just this amazing letter in response that was like really thoughtful and respectful and like just very much about how advances in the space program have led to all number of innovations that like cross many different social boundaries and like areas of life. But it was also, just totally full of just inspirational shit about space and science. And he included that photograph of that really famous photograph taken from the moon of Earth, like Earthrise, I think is the name of the photograph. And, I mean, we've all seen that photo a million times, but I thought of this from what you were just saying, because the way he framed it was just amazing, because he's like, this was the first, when people saw this was the first time that anyone had ever seen the Earth this way, like isolated out in this vast, infinite, black, just nothingness, right? Just surrounded by like just this little oasis in the middle of like just the most vast imaginable space. And it was just an amazing thing to reflect on. Like we've never, like in our lifetimes, that hasn't really been the case. Like we've seen a million.
Yeah, we've always just taken that image for granted.
Yeah,
that's what the Earth looks like. Duh.
Yeah.
We've also experienced a billion post that photo sci-fi movies and games where you just do.
That's
it's
true.
Just like
you just like zip around in space.
Right, you're just like, the opening of like Star Trek: The Next Generation. Just the first thing it shows, Earth floating, or like whatever, like posters in your kindergarten classroom. Like you're just, anyway, it's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know why I'm bringing this up. It just what you were talking about reminded me of it. Like it was crazy to me to actually try and put myself in because I mean, probably some people listening to this podcast who did have that experience. Like, but I mean, it's an amazing thing for me to try and imagine encountering that in that frame of mind in that way. It
never gets like when I think about that image or just the Earth alone in space. It's never the feelings that come with that have never diluted for me ever for some reason. And the game or the simulator is definitely. It was amazing to me that this thing set out to do a very ambitious thing, a very like vast thing, which is take all the not infinite, but all the finite knowledge of how we've mapped our universe, recreate that, and then on top of that, fill in the gaps with like procedurally generated stuff to really just that's just the goal. Like it's very clear on its face of the game what the goal of its creation was. Like how well can I do this? And then to achieve these sort of very nuanced, small emotional things inside that just makes the whole simulation like sort of the value of knowledge of that space self-evident, and it's like, you sit there and think about that crap and it makes the free download completely worth it.
So is this one guy who made this?
As far as I can tell, his patch notes are like, I thought it'd be cool if I put more detail into the surface of the moon, so I did it.
I like your voices for everyone involved.
He's Russian. I was him through a translator.
Oh, okay.
Please. I thought it was an open source like community project, but if somebody knows more about it, actually send me some links about where I can read up about
it. Called again?
Spaceengine.org is the website.
Sweet.
And I looked to see if he had like an about. I looked for a Wikipedia page today because I wanted to be armed with all manners of knowledge, but I couldn't find anything. So if you know anything, definitely send along some links. I'd love to read them. You guys want to take a break?
Yeah, we take a break.
I'm going to show you a YouTube of this thing. It's amazing. Anyway, a reader was playing Dota when he just got into while listening to a podcast, and Ursa, this bear, as he's like doing things and getting kills, he's like, "Oh yes, another kill." And apparently, the reader, in his head, as he was playing the game, was separating out the verbal stuff from the lip smacking, and thought it was just you or Chris on the podcast going, "Yeah, and another thing about that." It's like, why is this a new Idle Thumbs thing?
It's a new eating sounds episode.
Oh, video games.
That's a 10. God, I thought you were just going to do a giant spit take on purpose right there, right in Chris's face. I couldn't figure out why. The way you went for the water.
That would have been really bad.
It would have been funny as shit, but it would have been bad.
It would have been pretty bad, though.
It would have had a negative impact on the evening, but it would have been funny.
It probably would not be a podcast tonight or ever again.
It would have spiked
you
to
just
funny.
spit
and
water
then
all over my face. Yeah, that would be a tough one.
You could deal with it.
I would deal with it, but it would be weird for a day or a week.
I'd see you next week, and we'd be like, "Ha ha!" I just forget anything had happened. Just
And you'd do it again.
and then I'd wait until a minute before we were done recording the episodes, and then just bounce. One foam tile
Rip the
torn
foam.
off. I leave with it.
Anyway, I'm going to go write that description now.
There's somebody speaking Simlish outside, and it's just driving me nuts.
Is what?
You just hear that woman. I was like, the woman outside.
She's just from Gravity Bone.
Yeah. No, she's more.
She's Simlish.
Some of the ships and going. I'm going to get to the place with the house.
You should just talk like that the whole episode. So, Sean, what'd you think about that Babel game? Oh, see, that's timely. A timely Tower of Babel reference. He was speaking in tongues,
Yeah,
you
that
see.
was like three. That was three jokes in one, right
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, I
I
quote
can
a met.
see the
I'm out.
inside of my brain right now. Your Kickstarter funds at work. God, we should have made a classic road sign that said that. Put it in front of everything we do.
there. Just put it near us. Like,
Yeah, like those your tax dollars at
no,
work.
we're fine.
You always just like that. It's always foregrounding a guy who's just like reaching into his pants to move his balls around a little bit. Always, like you never see one of those signs and a guy behind it is just like wiping sweat off his brow and like he's like jackhammer sitting there for a second. Okay, back to work. It's always just like, oh, I just left testicles in a weird spot.
That was
It is.
not the balls part, but the sign part. When I was living in Santa Cruz and I was in college, I walked past some park that had the "Your Tax Dollars at Work" thing up, and then at the very bottom of it, it just had a signature that said Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that was the first time that I was like, "Okay, this is fucking weird. The world in which we live is weird." Arnold, like "Your Tax Dollars at Work,"
Conan
Arnold
the Barbarian.
Schwarzenegger, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
like the Terminator, like what? Ugh. And then, of course, in small text underneath, Arnold Schwarzenegger, governor. Like,
It's amazing that he was governor of California.
I know, it's so weird.
I think it's a testament to the fortitude of Californians that the state's still here after that.
yeah.
Pretty great. Good job, us. Only 40 billion or whatever we are in debt. I don't know enough about it to talk intelligently. This is why it's on the break. But apparently EA is partnering with like Tomahawk makers and people who make like magazine clip holders and bandoliers and shit to make real world like weapon paraphernalia. It seems like weapon accessories.
I think it's all the way to guns.
I don't think they're actually making
I bel-
submachine guns.
But I think that they're like we just don't know enough about this to talk about it.
I know. That's why I
when
was
we were
during
talking
the
to
break.
Kirk
I was
last night-
reading about it.
When we were talking to Kirk last night, it sounded like it was all the way up to like sponsored cross-linking to firearm acquisition.
I want somebody to actually show me that they are like co-branding a Kimber 40 caliber handgun. That's what I want to see. But right now, even the fact that like you probably don't. How does a lawyer let EA put their logo on a Tomahawk that could then be photographed inside of a human being's head and submitted as evidence?
That was, I think Alex Navarro tweeted about that, where he's just like, EA you should know
They
that
fired-
every reporter in the entire world is already coming up with the horrible pun headline for when one of your weapons inevitably actually kills a human being.
Yeah, I mean,
All of that was a horrible
Are the
sentence
lawyers
also.
at like an
That's all
offsite?
aspects of- Yeah.
They came back. The lawyers all just got sent to like Vegas for a cool offsite. Came back and they're like, "What's what happened while I was gone?"
You did
Oh
what?
With
my
who?
God.
Heckler and Koch? Is that you mean like? Okay,
All right.
okay. Well,
Just go get me some coffee.
Door closed, locked. All conference room doors locked, filled, just lawyers.
what happened is they sent all the lawyers to an offsite greenlit this bullshit. They came back, heard about it. All the lawyers actually killed themselves with the prototypes. And now there's nobody to defend them and go.
They'll kill themselves with the Call of Duty branded.
Right. The lawyers all locked themselves in the room to solve the problem, but then they didn't realize they were locked in the room with the prototype weapons.
Yeah. Just, you know how it started, too? He came in, the guy.
It turned to 12 Angry Men, except they all had guns.
Yeah. The first lawyer came back and he was like feeling tan, and he like looks at the receptionist. He's like, well, Mark, what's up, man? Mark,
way up.
Mark, what's up, man? He's like, how's it going? I was like, guy. He's like, yeah, man, it was a really good offsite. It was great. And then he bumps into a guy in the hallway or in the lobby who's leaving. He's like, oh, excuse me. He's like, excuse me. He's like, oh, wait, like, what? Do you have a meeting here? Do you need something? Like, oh, no, we're just leaving. We're from Smith & Wesson.
Anyway, we left you your gift bag in your office.
Right, yeah.
And then he walks out. Another guy who's like, yeah, he's like, oh, hi. Yeah. Oh, you're counsel for Winchester. Weird. Okay.
Yeah. Great. Then though he walks past some VP who's like, "Big day today." Just like walks out, the gun, just walks past him. Yeah. What's going on here? And then the secretary just crying outside of the actual like
over like a bloody corpse.
No. I mean just like because
she's a sensitive, empathetic human being.
Like, whoever the receptionist has been watching all these people come in and taking these appointments down, and like that guy just knows this lawyer's coming back. And he's just like, I'm so sorry. I tried to tell them. Nobody didn't know. It's like, and that's when the guy breaks into a run.
Is there a reason I have an appointment with Armalite? I'm having a weird day. Yeah. If you're a lawyer or general counsel for Electronic Arts, get in touch at questions@thumbs.net. If you're still alive.
Saturday morning stream. Providing commentary on the contracts drawn up between your company and every gun manufacturer on the planet, apparently.
Yeah, that is a really weird. Like, I don't know what to make of it, but it's really. I mean,
I know exactly what to make of it,
which is horrible. Sorry, I know what to make of it in that regard. I want to know what the actual details.
Right? Yeah, I want to see the actual
guns.
I want. Yes, it can't be guns. It can't be actual firearms. It can't be. Here's the thing. It's not even worth really discussing in the hypothetical other than just imagining this lawyer's day, which has brought me joy tonight. But the line is just anything. It's not like, well, if it's like a holster, okay. The line is just anything, right?
If it's just a bullet.
It can't be ammunition.
Why not?
I don't know. But even apparently, like, a tomahawk is an actual thing, which is just, at every level of decision-making, is grotesque. Even just, hi, my name's Brian, I'm a weapons designer on this game, and I was thinking it'd be really cool for, like, Modern Warfare, like, the melee combat's really good in that game, and ours, is good, but, like, we should really have, like, a very signature thing, theirs is like the knife stabber guy. Like, what if ours was like a tomahawk, like a sign of like American history, of really just, what if it was that? And then somebody needs to just say no right then, that's actually maybe a weapon that's used to cleave open somebody's head is not what we need in the video game.
But
about real
why is
conflicts.
Everything else in the video game better than the tomahawk?
I do feel like a tomahawk especially is embroiled in so many issues of sort of grotesque violence and prejudice from American history.
What are the odds of the Tomahawk showing up in Assassin's Creed 3?
High. But I mean, it's historical. It's a little different, I think, right? The concept of, okay, if somebody said, oh, this guy you went to high school with did 3 tours and just brought a Tomahawk with him to Crete and happened to kill a couple people with it, wouldn't that mean something different than the guy who uses a tomahawk on the field of battle in 1775?
That's fair, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only thing that's the thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, video games.
So
you play them.
Oh, you're looking it up.
The EA Warfighter page apparently does include a sponsored link to the TAC 300 Macmillan Tactical Rifle Magnum action with a link. See, rifles available for immediate delivery.
So this is just a co-marketing?
Yeah, I guess. That's really weird, though.
So the deal is the website for this game has affiliate links to buy rifles. That's the deal.
I think it's sort of like you can't buy a Ford Mustang from the Gran Turismo people, but they will link you to the Ford Mustang page on the Gran Turismo webpage. To which, what if you kill somebody in your Ford Mustang? You can't sue Sony. Or can you? You can sue anybody. I learned that from Oscar. You can sue a ham sandwich.
I don't think it's going to be an issue of lawsuits so much as it's going to be an issue of insane media insanity.
Right. It's just, at one point...
It's an issue of taste.
I was just going to say it's an issue of taste.
Well, that goes without saying.
But I mean, it is kind of a decent... Never mind. No, I was going to walk it back from a different angle, but I think that would be folly.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is really, really strange. But it's like, but there are things that are going to be co-branded that I read in an article that JP just posted on Twitter, where things are going to be co-branded and also proceeds go to like the Wounded Warriors Foundation and like these sort of like veterans foundations, which again feels really weird to me. I don't know.
Just the whole thing is a weird, just implicit, strong endorsement of like just an entire system.
Right.
Like, it means the whole thing is just sort of like, fuck yeah, military industrial complex. Like, all parts of it are like sponsored by our game for some reason. It's just weird.
Right.
This is a weird thing.
Yeah, I mean, you actually made a good point about this once, about how you were saying that, like, I can't remember the exact point, so don't let me put words in your mouth here, and I know you won't, but about game developers being like, oh yeah, the army brought us inside, we learned about all these things, and like how sort of that's incredibly tasteless.
Yeah.
In an art form where you're trying to, you can now never critique them in your text.
Yeah.
Because of the exclusive.
There's this like shield that if you're making a military game, you like put up this shield, which is like, yeah, we made sure to like get all the access we could and get all the official stories from all the people and like talk to all these current or former, special ops people or whatever and this and that, which is not like bad necessarily, but they all sort of shroud themselves, it seems to me, in this notion of like military legitimacy,
right?
Where it's all like, yeah, this is totally like the real thing, but it's always the real thing within this very specific context of just like super respectful in the tonal ways, but like obviously the gameplay usually isn't. It's just whatever, same old gameplay. And it just seems like it's hard for me to imagine saying something really interesting in that context if you're always worried about offending like these, like this institution that you're trying to depict in a positive way.
And like do some it's almost like you're doing
just like try and dump on the army. Like I don't mean you should just be like just disrespectful and shitty, but like if you're just from square one starting from this point of like we need to make sure that we're like even putting this in a good light and like just making sure that everything's A-okay and hunky-dory.
You're not even going to be able to talk about what is difficult or interesting about serving in the military. Like not what sucks or why it's stupid, but just like what's interesting about it besides or rolling out from behind a thing and popping a guy in the face.
Well, even then, it's like I feel like if you went up to any service member who experienced like violent action and was over the course of time and said, what was the hardest decision you had to make while in your service? Everybody's got to have one.
Yeah.
Where it's like, dude, this guy like ran his car into our convoy and he wouldn't get out and everybody thought he had a bomb on him and nobody knew and we were there for 2 hours and we were on the radio with our CO and he's telling us to kill the guy and the guy is trying to get out of the guy won't get out of the car and now the guy won't stay in the car and we don't know what to do and like finally like he comes out of the car and he starts trying to take his like he starts reaching under his shirt. We think he's got a gun or a bomb. So this guy shoots him and it turns out he was reaching for his Quran. And you're like, okay. Fucking shit. Okay. Jesus. Like, that's a thing, And, like, how do you even begin to get into that stuff and let people make their own sort of judgments about how that stuff feels to them and try to depict that as honestly as possible if you've got people being like, oh, don't show that.
Also, hey, check out, you can buy this sweet tactical rifle from our website.
That's a story from NPR that there was some guy who's on the... You heard that story, right? Yeah. That fucking story, I was just like, I had to park.
It was awful.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the...
There's the guy from EOD who did a lot of bomb.
Yeah.
Demolition
Right.
stuff.
It was right. Yeah.
Who wrote that book?
He wrote the book about it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a great interview with I can't remember his name, but he's a guy from EOD. It's probably like a month and a half ago. He was with Terry Gross on Fresh Air and just talks about, again, like the stuff that is actually like personally fascinating about the challenges of
the
war.
Stuff that's defining about modern. I mean, that's the irony. Is all these games are called like modern warfare and Battlefield Modern Combat and all that shit. And it's all modern this, modern that, but it's all just like shoot all the guys. Like the actual defining hallmarks of modern warfare are those weird situations. Like that didn't exist in like World War II.
Right.
That wasn't the same. Not that war wasn't terrible for other. Not that it wasn't psychologically difficult for other totally different reasons.
It seems like it was terrible for reasons which are closer to what is mechanically happening in modern warfare.
Yeah, in some cases. I mean, there's also just like the Holocaust and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, like that's the situation that you just like recounted now. Like that's a pretty specific, like horrible part of like basically from Vietnam on. It's like a pretty defining hallmark of
sort of like
the modern era of
conflicts, not wars necessarily.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's just never. It's just not represented.
Also, way more asymmetrical situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean.
Well, and it's funny, like, you stopped playing it, but Spec Ops kind of tries to deal with a lot of that stuff. I don't know how much it really succeeds, but I'm glad someone tried, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's an interesting game.
Yeah.
Although it too, fundamentally, like, the game is largely just...
Right.
Cover,
which is actually, I kind of
like,
got to one of the points where it's like, whoops, or like, oh, do I kill this guy or not, and things like that. And... I saw that stuff creeping in, when you're going through there's a mission where you're in what seems to be like a relatively fancy condo, like very tall condo building. And people have sort of made little encampments for themselves in between rooms and stuff like that. And you're going from the top to the bottom, killing these guys. And a woman runs out and you can accidentally shot that woman, the first kind of innocent you see in the entire game. And then you come up against what you think is like one of the like key dudes who has information, who's got a guy at gunpoint, and you can shoot him or not. And I got that far in the game, like sort of that first choice moment, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm curious as to what you think about this. Because the game is such a by the numbers shooter for the first couple hours.
Yeah, for most of the game in terms of the actual
right.
gameplay,
It feels like the first time I accidentally killed an innocent woman, and I felt that was impactful, but I felt manipulated. It's like it felt like playing a gun game when like the woman runs up from behind the bank counter. It's like, oh no, I gotta get out of here. And like, oh wait, shoot the robbers, not the
Right.
When you play a game, you get into these sort of like habitual places of expectation, and then it felt like
that's part
somebody.
of what the game's about, though.
It is what the game is about, but that's just I don't know if that's. I appreciate that that's what the game's about, but. Is that the most interesting thing it could have been about, which is how can we manipulate the habits of players to make them realize what they're doing?
Well, the thing that... Jake, it looks like you want to say something.
Go ahead. Talk about Spec Ops for a sec.
I was just going to say, I partially agree with you and I partially disagree with you. And I'm
sort of just exploring my opinion, actually. I don't know if I have an opinion on it yet.
Fair enough. But so on the one hand, I think it's a valid thing to do. Sort of the notion of like, I mean, what they kind of tried to do in Spec Ops is present this very standard kind of gameplay baseline and then try to raise questions about what you're actually doing. Like, what does that actually represent when you play a character who just goes through this just hours and hours and hours of just killing and killing and killing and sort of just having situations like the one you describe and just being the result of just being in this habituated state. And that is interesting, but the thing that frustrates me about it is that it feels like that's kind of the only way games are ever subversive, or the only ways games ever try to make an interesting point about any of that stuff, which is like BioShock. And these are games I like.
I was just going to say BioShock.
Yeah, BioShock, like System Shock 2, like Braid to some degree. Like there's a lot of games that do that sort of present you just traditional gameplay stuff and then like pull the rug out from on you and be like, oh, check out what you've been doing, or like check out why your character did this even though you were just doing it because it was a video game.
So go ahead.
And all I'm saying is like that's the kind of thing where every time I play a game that does that, it gets less meaningful, and it gets to the point where I'm just realizing, like, and I know this isn't actually the case, but it whenever I encounter that in a game at this point, it makes me wonder, like, is this the only subversive thing a game can say? Like, are there just not other ways to, like, make an interesting point that through, like, why is this always the thing that is the way game designers decide to you know, have a. It's just tough because I feel like what it really means is we're not willing to actually discard the gameplay that we're ostensibly criticizing, right? Like Spec Ops is a lot of it is about how just the shittiness of that habituation and like the habituation itself can breed really negative results and like can end up with this character who just goes to this world just mowing people down and like, look how horrific this is. But of course, no one who's making any of these games would actually be willing to step away from that gameplay paradigm in the game itself. Like they're still just going to keep making games that are just full of you going and mowing down 1,000 guys, but they sort of try and have their cake and eat it too by also being like, and look at, I'm pointing out how horrific this is.
I remember,
but like everyone's just going to keep making those games, right? Like it's not going to. No one's going to not make that game.
I think you and I went to a press event. It was like Tony Hawk's American Wasteland and one of the early Call of Duty spin-offs. I think it was Call of Duty 2. And that was the first... I don't know if earlier Call of Duty or Medal of Honor games had done this, but it was the first time I'd played a like really war-themed game where when I died, the screen would fade out and then fade up a really poignant quote about the travesty of war.
Right, yeah.
And that was the first time that I sort of saw that where I was like, oh, well... War is actually this. Anyway,
yep.
Here's your 6 objectives and 15
Should have thrown that grenade in that window.
Yeah.
Like, right, yeah.
It's actually beneath the tooltip where it's like, press right bumper to throw concussion grenade before
really,
entering a room.
I remember finding that incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about that moment in Spec Ops, the line where you killed that poor woman.
Killed that poor...
The first and only thing that I thought about is... this tiny game, The Visit by Marius Feitzek.
Oh my gosh!
He was an intern at Telltale, and now he's an intern. He was a cinematic intern at Telltale, and now he's an animation intern at Double Fine. I think he's the guy who made that adventure game that went up on Kotaku asking for an internship at Double Fine. But at a game jam, he made a game which is basically just a complete. I mean, I don't think it's supposed to be as self-aware as what we're talking about, or as I almost just gave it credit for, but it is just a complete on-the-nose version of that, where you're playing what looks like a platformer, and then your life just goes to complete shit. But then the stupidity of that just keeps stacking and stacking and stacking, where like you go to court, but then we've discovered that in the middle of the court trial, you can also escape from that and then murder people inside of that scene. Like we'll put a link to it up.
Yeah, we'll put it on the blog.
It's impossible to find, so we need to remember to put a link up for you.
It's a goofy game that you replay 5 or 6 times over like
just to see all the different
over 5 or 6 minutes. But yeah, you can just keep kind of ruining this guy's life through just doing stupid stuff in a game and everyone's life. It's good, but yeah, that game starts off right off the bat with that exact trope of you thought you were doing this, but you're actually doing this. But it seems very aware of that and just keeps playing it out in a way that's really fun. Yeah. Anyway, that's a goofy game, but I had to mention it when you're like...
It's a good thing to bring up.
Yeah.
I hear he's actually cross-branding that game with Red Lobster.
What? That's true.
It's a joke. I'm going to be funny after you play the game.
Oh, that's true.
That's something that'll
Thanks,
land
John.
after you... It's got crabs in it.
Come back and listen to this 10 seconds again. After.
Go play the game right now and come back, and then I hit the 30-second rewind button on your podcast player, and then
It's unfortunate that when this episode comes out, I guess people will just be about to play it. But I'm super fucking excited for the Team Fortress 2 co-op thing that's coming out. Like
Man versus Machine.
I'm really excited about that. I used to play a ton of Team Fortress, and then I haven't in the last few months, but
that's all about to change.
It might be all about to change.
Tomorrow at lunch.
If the update comes out at lunch tomorrow, I'll be playing. And I'll be super excited. But it's weird because when Team Fortress first came out, it was the most sort of aesthetically and gameplay clean thing. Like, we've talked about the sort of the art and the style and the gameplay mechanics and sort of the way Team Fortress was presented on day one a few times on the podcast. Like, it was just excellent. And then it's sort of slowly been crapping itself up, at least in a lot of people's eyes, where it has weird billions of hats, billions of guns. The levels are spreading out in style a little bit more. And now you can have 6-player horde mode versus clockwork robots of the original 9 Team Fortress classes. And I realized, this was when I formally realized I don't give a shit about all of the complaints about that stuff, because I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say with this exactly, but it's all still working for me. So everyone can fucking suck it.
It was sort of fanning out
talking
to like
about?
more people playing. Yeah.
Like
the socialness.
just
and,
there are many people for
the hats
whom
and stuff?
there are many people for whom Team Fortress has completely lost its appeal, because they'll say it's entirely impenetrable because of all of the weird items and because of the extra stuff. But like the thing that I actually do like about it is that over the years, like looking at it to me holistically, it actually feels like Valve has actually been reasonably deliberate with all of it. Like when Team Fortress first came out, it did have the aesthetic tightness, it had the really pared down gameplay, but Team Fortress Classic players, their biggest beef was you took out all the things that I loved about Team Fortress Classic. I don't have the crazy jumps, I don't have conk grenades anymore, and you just had this one limited thing. But now, over the years, what Team Fortress 2 has become, maybe weird hats and guns aside, is it has things like the payload gameplay mode, it's got this new horde thing. Like, it feels like the evolution of this game has actually finally turned it into what I think people may have been expecting at the beginning. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, the thing is, the thing that I keep hearing about it, because this, I mean, a lot of games have horde mode where it's just, we're just going to throw a wave after wave of NPC at you and see how long you can last. Mm-hmm. And the thing I keep hearing is people saying, oh man, TF2 is impenetrable to me because I get in and it's 10 on 10 and everybody's got crazy glowing hats and guns that I don't understand that are doing things to me that I don't know how I'm dying. And it's just, a game that had a very small curve, especially if you picked an easy class like the Pyro, sort of over time evolved to have this really steep curve. I think now there's a mode.
I think the actual curve, the actual like comprehension curve is still reasonably short, but it has a perceived curve that's huge.
Right.
Now.
Well, because you're seeing all these things happen on screen if you're new to the game that just feel way beyond you. And like, how long do I have to play to get that thing? Forever? Or pay $20? What?
Right. Like, what the hell's going on?
And then you go and look at the library of guns and stuff and armor you can buy. And it's all weird, but it also has attributes, and it's just too much.
Yep.
Where this is just get 5 friends, get on team chat, kill as many things as possible, and have a guy be like, hey dude, you should totally use this other rocket launcher instead because it'll be better for the situation.
Yeah, everyone on the server being unified means, I guess, friends, like pickup matches with friends will actually be, that's true, it's a total learning in for Team Fortress, which hasn't existed.
Or you can just
really cool.
use a guy off the shelf and then slowly get things without, it's not fun to die a lot, especially when it's competitive and other people are the ones that are I guess you.
What I was trying to say earlier is just thinking back about what I like about Team Fortress 2 at this point, I realized that I've legitimately crossed over to almost all of the things that I like about the game now are things that are post 1.0 features. Like, I don't really play a lot of straight capture point. I really like the cart-based stuff, which was added way later.
Right.
And I'm really looking forward to this to the co-op.
Well, you're pointing out a lot of the stuff that is way more fun if you have really active team chat going. Yeah. If you have really active strategy happening. Whereas early TF maps, capture the flag and things like that, especially where it's just, what the general goal is, so just play well, don't die and try to kill their dudes. But when you have games like Horde Mode, there's a team strategy element that starts coming out, which actually came out in their Halloween update. And if you played their Halloween update, I don't know if you talked about it, but
MONOCULUS.
You're on this.
Did you play that at all, Chris? I know, like Steve Ganner hopped on to Team Fortress for 2 hours for like the first time since it came out.
This is bananas.
It was one of their King of the Hill maps, which is the kind where there's just a soul capture point in the middle that you sit on until the timer goes, then your team has it, and you have to try to maintain control of the capture point for 3 minutes to win the map. But in the Halloween version, it was haunted themed for no reason, but then occasionally a giant flying eyeball would come out from another dimension and shoot flames at everyone.
At everybody, yeah.
But it would mean, like, it didn't have a side, so suddenly everyone would just stop what they were doing, and everyone would be like, okay, fucking kill MONOCULUS, go. Because when you killed him, he turned into a portal that took you to an alternate Halloween dimension, Treasure Island, Loot Island.
Does only the team who killed him first?
No,
everybody can go.
Everyone can jump in.
So then why don't you just still keep killing people on the other team?
You can.
Because
it's horrible.
Monoculus
And
has
people yell
a
at you.
huge HP and he goes away after a while.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to get to Loot Island to get the drops, you have to try and kill Monoculus before he goes away.
And
so
it takes
abusing
everybody.
the metagame, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So-
great though, because everybody does just stop, and if somebody shoots you while Monoculus is up, because it really does take the full brunt of both sides.
Yeah,
to
you need like
defeat
2
him.
full teams killing this guy for him to go away.
People just are like, why would you do that? Monoculus is here.
Yeah, but
It was really wonderful.
they've done that, and then also the other one that they did, there was The War was another update that they had running, which was this weird fiction about how
Oh, I think I played the war.
it was when like
that was pretty early, right?
Yeah.
It was
early in their
like
metagame fiction,
mid range. Yeah, it was when they just had started doing like they'd gone 3 or 4 class updates, and it was before the store and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was the first sort of long-term metagame one.
Yeah,
though.
it was. They had claimed that the soldier class and the demo man class had become friends and had crossed enemy lines, like just across team boundaries, and they had to make this stop. So, whichever class type got the most kills would get a different drop in their class update, and the other class would just not get that final item. But it created this weird situation where you'd be playing as like a red demo man, and you'd cross paths with a blue demo man, and you wouldn't kill each other. Because you knew that any time that a demo man wasn't in the map was a time that the demo man class was not going to be getting kills, and you wanted that item. So like, it was weird to just like go, "You're my brother," and then just like walk on. And I feel like that and Monoculus were like they were totally about getting people excited through the metagame. But yeah, those weird sort of moments where you're like, I'm cooperating in Team Fortress. Whoop, okay, I'm back into the game. It's cool to see them doing a
more plain on its face cooperative thing.
Okay, everyone now is on the same team. I think that's kind of cool.
It's crazy that game came out 5 years ago.
Yeah, it is.
I have an orange box for Xbox. We should just play just TF.
Oh god, TF would be weird on that at this point.
Yeah. I think I did it like a couple years ago, and it wasn't enjoyable then.
It's not a thing we can talk much about because it's obviously not out, but just the evolution of Team Fortress. I'm fully on board with it at this point, even though it's still. I just said I'm fully on board and then had a reservation, so that was a garbage sentence.
You're fully on board.
There's some stuff about it that still strikes me as a little bit weird, but I don't know. For what it is, I feel like Valve is doing the best version of that kind of thing that exists. Also, their trailers are fucking phenomenal. The trailer for this update, it's so good. It's the best. I watched it like 3 times. Oh, the other trailer that I watched 3 times is for the new Media Molecule game. What was it called?
Tearaway.
Yeah, Tearaway.
Looks cool. It did the exact same thing for the Vita that Little Big Planet did for the PS3, where I instantly made me want that console.
Oh, really?
Huh. It's funny for me.
It tickled. I mean, not with the same.
Little Big Planet was way more exciting.
Yeah, not with the same amount, but it
this
tickled the same. I could
think
see getting a Vita.
I think actually, if I didn't play Team Fortress when it was coming into it right now, I would have the same reaction to Tearaway, which is Team Fortress ideologically, TF2 at this point, ideologically kind of stands for a lot of things that I'm not a big fan of. It's free to play. It's really heavily based on this collectible model. It's got a ton of players in it who are, at this point, I think, in it just for the metagame, whereas what actually appeals to me about TF is the core. And Tearaway is this thing that's it's all about the fact there's a touch-sensitive back and that there's a camera and that it's got a tilt sensor and all this stuff. And that aspect of it is not that appealing to me. It's stuff that I thought was a lot cooler a few years ago, but I'm kind of tired of seeing
when games so blatantly sell their apparatuses.
But again,
abilities.
Team Fortress, I feel does it really well and has a core inside of it that in and of itself is appealing. And even just from the video of Tearaway, and I was talking to Spaff, our friend James Spafford, who's the community manager over there, about the game a little bit and just sort of some of the stuff that video was implying. It just looks really solid. It just looks like one of the better executed versions of that. So it's hard for me to resist, except that I'll probably never own a PS Vita.
We'll play it at PAX, though, I bet.
We probably will play it at PAX.
We'll talk about it. We've already talked about our PAX panel, but that's going to be on Friday at 10:30 at PAX. 10:30 a.m. in the Pegasus.
Yeah, go to that.
Maybe it'll be good.
That theater might be
really
huge,
good.
so fill it up with everyone you know. Just start hitting people over the head and dragging them into that theater.
Yeah. Don't do
violence. The first thing in that theater, so you can take them there
just keep them there.
Just
tell them that there's a cooler panel after ours.
A cool thing before all that happens, though, is we're going to be this weekend on Saturday, 11 a.m. on our Pacific time on our Twitch TV channel, which is twitch.tv/idlethumbs. We're going to be playing DayZ, which none of us have played, with Evan Lottie from PC Gamer, who's going to come sort of shepherd us into the game, and that should be pretty fun. So I'm really, really stoked to play this game. And Evan's a great guy, and he is masterful at streaming this game, so it'll be fun to have him in the office and check it out. So that's
he's been one of the big evangelists of DayZ.
Yeah.
People keep asking us what we think of this game. Like every week we get like 2 reader mails asking us about DayZ, and we've just never played it because we're stupid, I guess.
Yeah.
It's obviously looks really cool, so I don't know why we haven't played it.
Episode 71, we can talk about DayZ and Man vs. Machine. It'll be great.
Yeah. Oh, also, a thing we did since the last episode, which we didn't warn you about last episode because we didn't know we were doing it yet, was Saturday we did an epic 4-hour, I think, stream of FTL, Faster Than Light, which is a game that's currently only available if you backed their Kickstarter and are a beta tester of it.
We've talked about it a couple times on the cast.
In about a month. Yeah,
it's coming out in a month.
We talked about it last month. Last episode. So we did I jumped on to our Twitch TV channel with it and just started playing a game because I wanted to show people what this game was about because, as I say, it's not fully available yet.
You were playing, and you've been playing a ton of it, but I was there, and our friend JP LeBreton was there, and neither of us had played it, so it was our first time looking at it, which was awesome in and of itself.
Right, and so there were a bunch of people in chat who'd never seen it before as well, but there were also a bunch of people in chat
pros in there
who were super pro. So it was an awesome experience. It was a super fun stream because I felt like I was playing the game actually with all these people in the chat, and they were all, not all, but a bunch of them were giving suggestions and like giving tips and being like, oh man, here you're going to want to like put some extra points into like your gun system even though you can't power it yet, just to be like a buffer against damage. And there's all these cool, just really awesome input. Like it really felt collaborative.
That stream for me was kind of incredible because it started off just watching you play it, and you were obviously really familiar with it and really versed sort of in the weird lexicon of FTL. And it was the most opaque thing for me at first. When I was watching this, I was just sitting there going, this is the most like opaque, kind of off-putting looking thing. Like this is a sort of game that I just don't play anymore, or like I haven't played stuff like that since I was a kid, really. But then once I sort of got a handle on what was going on, it became like one of the more genuinely thrilling game experiences to watch to me, where it was like, okay, send the 2 guys into the teleporter and send an away mission onto the enemy ship. Oh my god, we took out their guns, sick. Like, oh, send them back. They're about like it was crazy stuff to me. It made me want to play that game a lot.
Yeah,
but there were a lot
of amazingly thrilling moments where
my
guys almost got trapped on a ship that was about to explode, and I warped them back just in time. It was a lot of really cool stuff.
A lot of crazy last minute sci-fi scrapes, and it was also surprising. And fuck, this makes it sound really off-putting and not thrilling, but it really actually simulates the best moments of Star Trek. Sorry, worst, most off-putting thing, but good. It's so hard to explain. Like it uses all of the mechanics that they use when writing the fiction of Star Trek, which is always really actually kind of boring in practice on that show. Like the actual space battle stuff inside of Star Trek episodes, the worst. Like it is terrible. But inside
people grabbing the walls.
Yeah, but inside of FTL, they're like watching Chris throw all the power out of the med station and into the shields, or like sending guys over to a ship to get in a hand-to-hand fight with someone and then disable a system on their ship and blip back. It's awesome. Like it's a crazy game. We streamed for like 4 hours, but the second stream is probably the one that has the most like complete.
Yeah, the second
playthrough.
Stream has a full playthrough. So the first, I think I died once and then I started over, or maybe I died twice. I can't remember. But in any case, I'm pretty sure if you just go to part 2, within the first like 2 minutes, we start a new playthrough,
which goes all the way through one full playthrough.
Fully defeat the space boss.
Yeah, the fight against the space boss was pretty good. It was really good.
Yeah, that was cool because I'd actually never beat the game before, so I'd reached the boss and I had beat. The first time I did, I thought I actually had vanquished this boss in space. And then it turns out he does the stupid boss thing where
classic boss move.
Yeah, he warps away, and then he's actually even more powerful now, and you have to fight him again. And then not only that, that happens again, and you have to fight him a third time, and I had never killed him the third time before.
But this time it's because we had our full crew in the chat who were like, I mean, I guess FTL boss spoiler, but they said, oh, if you notice, you'll see that the weapon systems are spatially disconnected from the other things, so the guy can't send crew members over there. So then we were covertly beaming members of the crew into like the tunnel of the weapon system and having them just disable the weapons in the first round. So when the ship came back the second time,
there were no crew members in there.
Yeah, it couldn't fire on us. Oh, it was the best.
Well, it had repaired the weapon system, but we'd killed the crew in there.
Right, but there was no guy left to fix it a second time.
Yeah,
it was good.
Super good.
It was good.
That sounds rad.
Yeah,
it was a
fun.
really fun stream.
Also, your starting crew was named...
Oh yeah, NickBreck.
NickBreck, Scoops, and Famous. It was all absent thumbs.
It was absent thumbs.
Oh man.
Yeah. NickBreck died early on.
He was the pilot. NickBreck was the captain.
He was burned alive within. He was burned alive within 3 minutes.
Steve and I on a ship in deep space with Nick Brecken's body in the control room.
Nick's charred corpse.
At each other,
well,
saying
what the
nothing.
fuck are we gonna do now?
Yeah.
Brecken's gone.
Nick burned alive immediately, basically. Fire in the engine room. Well, it's because the first game, we're like, okay, and we're just going to jump. Okay, we jump to a star. The ship's on fire. Like, that was like, we're done. And, yeah.
Yeah, we had some bad luck the first time through. I can't remember actually what respective roles you and Steve had. You guys were the
chief of staring and chief of dealing with
the engineer and the gunner, but I can't remember who was who. I can't remember which was which.
I think Steve would be the gunner because he'd be wearing giant shades, and you would see like the flash of the ion cannon in
You'd
them.
actually also see just the grid of his like space map reflected in the sunglasses. Also, Nick, as the captain, would probably be wearing the Oculus Rift.
That's true.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't actually need any controls in the cockpit of his ship.
Sitting in a chair.
Yeah,
he's
just
on
sort of
fire with
looking
his face
around,
covered.
gesturing with his hands. Well, his body and
He doesn't notice because he's wearing the Oculus. Right. He's fully immersed.
The cabin and his jumpsuit are just on fire, but he's still just like Minority reporting his hands while looking around at a world that you can't see. While you and Steve are just yelling at each other in the back. That's probably what was happening in that playthrough, actually. And then Nick just fell over dead. And the rest of the ship. Yeah. Oh, you also at one point, I believe. Oh, Chris's classic move was to have an unmanned ship show up, and he forgot to read the word that it was unmanned, which meant that it was just a probe, which meant that there was obviously no life support. He would beam an entire crew over there, and they would just sit there like going, and then the chat would be like, beam them back, send them back. There's no oxygen in there. It's like, oh, sorry, there's no oxygen in there. And then everyone just multiple away missions.
I made that out of there twice. I made it.
Yeah, it was just
I fucked it up twice and made them back just before total asphyxiation.
This purple.
Yeah. The other thing you can do, boarders can show up and you can just open up all of the doors in your ship. Like basically you can alien them out of there by trying to just send them out into the blackness of space.
You can't. They won't. No. They just starve
to death.
Yeah. They'll run out of oxygen,
but you can just pull all the atmosphere out of the ship.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that also, you didn't ever literally do that, but you were deathly afraid of doing that.
Yes. I did it once and fucked it completely up and just left my ship just
in ruins, just in tatters.
Just having no atmosphere, and my guys being unable to make it to the oxygen generator room to repair it before they themselves were killed. That was, I think, how I died this first time.
Yeah,
I forget. Yeah,
it's got some really good stuff. Like when you lose the ability to see the inside of your ship, that's actually the most evocative thing to me. Where I don't remember which system it is that gets knocked out that does that. That turns every room dark.
The lights,
just
probably
the sensor room. Yeah,
yeah. Just when you have no sensor readings inside of your ship, any room that a guy isn't in just turns like 70% gray. It's just off. But then you have a guy wandering through the ship, so whichever room he's in,
discovering
whichever room he's in, a light turns on. So it feels, even though it's just it's from that top-down pixel art view,
right?
It feels so much like a moment from like the first Alien,
right?
Where the guy just
all our senses are off. Just like go see what's going on.
Yeah, someone is going through hallways, then just coming into one room and like having their like beam, their like lantern that illuminates just that space, looking around and then trying to fuck with the computer. And it doesn't work, and wandering into the next room.
Well, the crazy thing is that in this, I think the second game, the one that we actually won, that happened, and it was in a nebula, so my sensors were actually just fully disabled by the interference from the nebula. So it wasn't even that they were broken; it was just that my ship, like they were just like EMP'd out basically. And I had just been fighting this battle, and I was like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Like that was no big deal. Like my sensors were knocked out by the nebula, but like I took out the enemy without too much problem, like no worries. And then I had my little guy like walking back to the engine room, and he walks into one room, and it's just completely in flames. Yeah. And I just had no idea because my sensors were out, so I had no way of knowing that my ship was.
But yeah,
burning.
that is just you're
and
in
I'm
this
like, oh god,
dark hallway, and the bulkhead door opens.
And I put them on. I'm like, oh god, and I go in the next room, and that one's on
I know, it's
fire.
like how many other ones are on?
Christ, yeah, and I can't see any of this shit. And then I go to my engine room, and it's like starting to burn, and I'm like, oh, get that
Can't
out
you just
quick.
fly away from
and
the
then
nebula?
the fire is like spread back to my ship's still going to be on fire,
Yeah.
and like. And then I go back to the original room, and there's a fire is like restarted there. It was this total disaster. And the funny thing is, I had just been saying like this was. Oh, you know, I was going to show you guys some nebula stuff, but like this ended up being
the sensors turned off.
Total cake. All it was my sensors
Right. Then
got
meanwhile, like
knocked out.
everything's fine.
Yeah.
Power comes back on. Just back half of the ship is gone at that point.
Oh my god, it was a disaster.
That wasn't actually what was going on. Like the back half wasn't literally gone, but things like that are surprisingly evocative for how, in my opinion, kind of suspicious the art of that game is. Like it's very, very simple pixel art.
I like it.
It's cool. I feel like that game, with what it's got going on, if it actually had a slightly stronger aesthetic, not like an overbearing one, but I feel like if that art was a tiny bit more polished, it would probably do a lot to bring people into that game, and it could probably also elevate some of the more evocative stuff in it than it does.
Yeah,
but
that's fair enough.
But once you get into it, it's doing its job pretty well. Mm-hmm. Like, I was originally kind of put off by the look of that game, but after experiencing that playthrough, it was like, okay, this game's sick. FTL's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think you did you put in a name to it?
No, I didn't bid at the level.
Nick and Steven and I will put our names in there. So I'm Remo, Nick is Brecken, and Steve is Scoops.
Good.
So our names will be present as potentially,
Shipmates.
randomly available crew members when the game ships.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. Yep.
Hopefully we have this level of excitement a week from now after playing
DayZ.
DayZ.
But yeah, if you want to watch that stuff, it is on our Twitch TV channel, which is twitch.tv/idlethumbs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Sounds like a cast.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon.
Probably in a week.
Well,
yep. Check out our blog, because we'll probably put details about the PAX panel.
Oh yeah, if you go to idlethumbs.net,
stream.
we'll have PAX panel stuff. We'll have DayZ stream announcements. You can also, that's another place you can get the video of the FTL stuff.
Mm-hmm. Go to our forums. Follow us on Twitter.
Gosh, if you like the internet so much, why don't you marry it?
Yeah, we are,
You can marry the internet.
We are at Idle Thumbs on Twitter. We have a really great forum community, which you should check out. Also, punch a friend in the face with your iPhone or podcast playing device and say Idle Thumbs when you do it, and then they'll listen to Idle Thumbs.
Oh yeah,
that's true. That's proven to work.
Yeah, just say video games, smack them in the face, or just say, I heard about this amazing best podcast in the world, the Idle Thumbs podcast. That podcast was canceled. There's this new podcast called Idle Thumbs.
Not only was it canceled, it has been stricken from the record of history.
It is now reintegrated into this other podcast called Idle Thumbs, which is okay, I guess.
Anyway, still podcast?
Bye.
I don't know what we're doing. Goodbye. Thanks, guys.
Video games.
I just really met Steve, but the day that we played like a 5-hour game of Imperial 2030, and he was also playing Deadly Premonition, and then decided like 3 hours into Deadly Premonition to pay attention to the board game and defeat us all, was probably the day that I hated him the most of all days.
Yeah.
And I've definitely called him horrible names to his face on this very podcast and have to have it edited out. But that was the day that I look back and go, darkest day of Gainer's life in my eyes. That's for you, Steve.
In your solipsistic view of the world, that is actually the worst day he's ever had. Whereas in his mind, it's the best day.
Yeah.
God, that was so... Played some Deadly Premonition, kicked everyone's ass at Imperial 2030. That was a good day.
That was the worst day of your life, Steve.
The dynamic has been set for what's going on.
I know, I'm going home.
And you're just...
No,
Episode 1 of Mega McCheese. And these fuckers are Jake and Chris. Go ahead. That's the opening for that, by the way. That's hard. I never introduced myself. I introduced you two, and then to say go.
We just always sort of hear you do the, like,
Chris and Jake.
The dealer out, sort of hands together, then a couple footsteps away. Like,
You just hear the door close, swinging close.